Heritage's March US Coins signature auction was not just an ordinary sale. It was a veritable map of American money under pressure that saw nearly $12 million change hands. Before the gold dollar became a standard feature of American denominations, it existed as an experiment in scale and symbolism. This $1836 pattern is that very beginning, the very first gold dollar pattern struck by the United States Mint, and the design is unlike anything that was later adopted, with Liberty's cap set within radiant glory rays and the denomination of 1D enclosed in palm fronds on the reverse. PCGS graded this example as proof 64 and it sold at auction for $21,960. The Continental Dollar sits right at the very edge of American numismatics, where evidence gives way to speculation and argument. For generations now, it was treated like a relic of 1776, bound to the year of independence. But more recent scholarship has reopened that case. Was the coin an American necessity struck out of revolutionary fervor, or a later European medal meant to commemorate the event? Within that uncertainty lies part of this fascinating coin's allure. This example was graded by PCGS as XF45 and it managed to sell at auction for $58,560. The New Orleans Mint returned to production in 1879 to a nation changed beyond recognition. Before the war, it had coined double eagles for the antebellum South. Afterwards, secession, seizure, and 18 silent years. It reopened largely to strike Morgan dollars. 1879 saw the only double eagles emission from this period, nearly as, well, an afterthought. Just 2,325 Type 320s, the sole New Orleans issue for the type, and today maybe 100 to 150 coins survive, making it by far more elusive than even the legendary 1854 O or 1856 O's. Yet high-grade coins remain painfully rare. This example from NGC is graded as AU55, making it immensely desirable for the issue and attaining a closing price at auction of $79,300. Like most coins, the quarter dollar was first authorized in 1792, but America had to wait until 1796 to see the first coin struck, and even then it was a meager mintage of only 6,146 coins. It carried Robert Scott's draped bust obverse and a small eagle reverse with no explicitly stated denomination. A peculiar but interesting design choice for a coin which was so close in appearance to the existing half-dollar coin, making it one of the rarest and most sought-after single-year type coins in US Mint history. This example was graded by NGC as XF45 and raised $79,300 by auction's close. The 1895 Morgan dollar is famous because it is surrounded by the fog of mystery, by the US Mint's records that have long tempted collectors with the possibility of finding one of the 12,000 missing circulation strike coins. And yet 130 plus years have passed without a single confirmed business strike coin ever having been found. That pressure makes every 1895 proof, of which only 880 coins were minted, a series-defining coin for anyone looking to complete a full set. And this Proof 63 example from PCGS stands out even amongst such rarefied company, easily explaining its closing price at auction of $91,500. The 1919D Standing Liberty Quarter is a coin made famous, one could argue, by failure. You see, Denver's output for that year is notoriously weak. Flat heads, ill-defined details, tired shields with almost no rivets, and incomplete dates are abound. That is what makes this coin so startling. Graded as MS66 with full head details, it belongs to a tiny registry grade class with only 12 reported at this grade from PCGS and NGC combined, and just one finer with a full head. $91,500 was the final price for this prize of a coin. In 1904, the Philadelphia Mint made double eagles for two very different purposes. More than 2.6 million entered circulation as working gold, while just 98 proof coins were struck for collectors. These were delivered in 4 batches across the year. Now, for whatever reason, the Mint stopped adding heavy frosting on devices around 1902, and by the time you get to a coin like this, it is almost impossible to find one that has any kind of cameo effect at all. This coin manages to buck that particular trend, and even, just barely so, but with a grade of Proof 64 cameo from PCGS. At auction, it managed to attain a closing price of $109,800. The 1933 Indian Head Eagle may get all of the fame and the headlines, but the 1920S in the same series is easily one of the hardest coins to obtain in mint state, and that is a rarity that was not born from low ambition or honest usage, but rather from attrition. You see, the San Francisco Mint struck 126,500 coins in that year, and yet only a fraction of those have remained, perhaps 70 to 90 coins, as almost no coins escaped the mint and were later then melted down during the Great Gold Recall of 1933. This beautiful example is graded by PCGS as MS63 and managed to attain $146,400 at auction. During the California Gold Rush, gold traveled eastwards as much on reputation as anything else, and the reputation of the firm of Justh and Hunter was unassailable at the time, with Emil Justh having been an assistant assayer at the San Francisco Mint and Solomon Hunter bringing commercial experience from Baltimore. This 18.6-ounce ingot from the very same firm had a value of $343.35 when it was freshly poured, just before it joined the ill-fated cargo aboard the SS Central America. 170 years later, when it crossed the auction block, authenticated by PCGS, it managed to attain a closing price at auction of $146,400. By 1825, the quarter dollar had become something of an orphan in the American economy. It was too large to be used for wages by ordinary Americans, but at the same time, it was also too small of a denomination to be favored for trade or by banks. As a result, the denomination was almost exclusively minted when specifically requested to do so by customers, leading to small mintage figures being the norm, including the 4,434 coins for 1825. The coin we see here is virtually a perfect strike in every regard. Graded by NGC as MS66, it was sold for $164,700 when the gavel fell. The Stella coin was born from an ambition which was starting to outgrow American continental bounds. Behind its elegant $4 face stood a much larger experiment: Dr. William Wheeler Hubbard's goloid alloy, paired with a metric weight meant to speak the language of European commerce. And in 1879, that idea reached Congress, and the Flowing Hair Stella, as we know it today, was born. Technically a pattern coin, although it's always been larger than merely that. Around 425 coins were struck, although that number has always been disputed. This Proof 65 cameo example represents the peak example of America's most fascinating numismatic anomalies, sold at auction for $201,300. In the early years of the US Mint, experimentation and execution walked hand in hand. The 1796 6/5 half-eagle coin is a prime example. For years, conventional wisdom held that 6,196 coins were minted, but more thorough and recent research by John Danruther has suggested that the actual number of coins that were actually dated 1796 might be closer to the 2000 mark, which could align more closely with the estimated survival of about 80 to 100 coins today. What we are looking at here is a brilliant conditional census example graded by NGC as MS64, and which sold at auction for $256,200. Subscribe to WNN and feel free to watch another video about spectacular US coins sold at auction right here next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.